Alright guys, in today's video we're going to get into the top 5 biggest mistakes that I have made since I started deer hunting. Let's get into it. Alright, for this first one I'm going to take it back to probably 2012, 2013. I was at deer camp and I just got into bow hunting and I was sitting in a buddy stand with my stepdad. And I had never harvested a deer with a compound bone at this point in my life. I was probably around 10, 11, somewhere in there. And all I remember is we're sitting in this buddy stand and there's what we thought was a doe walking up to us, and it's walking directly towards our stand, right? It walks under us and my stepdad stands up with me because we were both about to draw, because if it was a doe we wanted to make sure we had it, you know. But it turned out to be a button buck, so he sat down and to let me take it as my first deer with the bow. I start to draw, but before I do that, it's walking. So I go, Matt! And then this deer looks up and is staring at me as I'm trying to pull my bow back like I'm about to launch this arrow 100 yards. Well, sure enough, I did not get my bow back, did not get drawn on this deer, and it spooked and ran off. That was the first of the long list of mistakes that I've made in my hunting career. So coming in at number 4 on the list is always check your weapon to make sure it's sighted in before taking it to the field. Now guys, this is an ethical thing, really. You want to be sure what you are shooting to harvest a deer is not going to wound it. You want to be to the best of your ability. Now, mistakes happen, bad shots happen, but you want to eliminate mistakes that are 100% totally on you. Now, I was a youth. I was 8 years old, and it was the day before youth season, and I had not been practicing with the rifle. And don't crush my parents in the comments for this, you know. Things happen. This was 2011, a long time ago. 2010, actually. Either way, I had a little 223. We had cut the stock, wood stock, to match me perfectly. I was shooting reloads that my great-grandpa had made. I was crying, throwing a fit. They had set milk jugs out there to see if I could bust them. And all the way to right before dark, I finally pulled the trigger after giving my parents and everybody a ton of grief. Liked it and said, I want to shoot again. Well, at that point, it was too dark. I couldn't see anything in the scope. So, we went hunting. And that morning, I don't remember the hunt particularly well. We didn't really see anything from a stand, but we were riding the four-wheeler back to the truck and through a bunch of fields and stuff, you know, permission to be on. It was at deer camp, and sure enough, there's these deer out by the field, probably about 40 yards from the four-wheeler trail. My grandpa sticks his arm out to let me use that as a rest. I draw down, I aim, and it's important to note I'm aiming at the long shoulder top area. And this deer has turned around and is so relaxed, even though we're that close to him, starts licking her shoulder. Well, I shoot, she drops, I hit her directly in the eyeball, hit her right in the face. I don't really think much of it. They think I'm just a bad shot. First time I ever shot at a deer, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, I end up missing a buck 3 times. It would have been my first buck, a little basket rack 6-point later on that season. We go to check the gun. Turns out I was shooting 8 to 10 inches high. So the only reason I even got my first deer with the first shot is because she had just happened to turn around and licked her shoulder. Now, we got out of this one with a lesson learned. No deer suffered, but always check your weapons before you go to the woods. You do not want to do what I do. All right, so coming in at number 3 on the list is don't be lazy. Don't cut corners. This has burned me a couple times in my hunting career, but let's talk about the first time. First time this happened to me, it was gun season, and my grandpa lived right down the dirt road from me. So every day, when I would get home from school around 4:30 off the bus, I would grab my rifle, I'd sling it on my shoulder, and I'd walk down to his house to watch the field before dark because I couldn't really go hunting anywhere. So I had to get my fix somehow. Always been addicted to this. Well, sure enough, I'd decide one day, you know what? I'm tired of hauling this big 270 around with me every single day. I'm coming down here. Let me just leave it here at his house. That way it's here when I get here. I'll just grab it out. No need for me to transfer it. Well, wouldn't you know it, the exact very next day, I come down there beat bopping, walking down his long driveway. I look out in the field and I see a really nice 8-point chasing a doe. And at this point in time, I had not even harvested a racked buck. You know, I think I maybe killed 1 spike. So my grandpa was deaf, that's important to note, and liked to listen to music while he played cards on his computer. I'm squatting down behind a cedar tree trying to flag down the house, hoping he's in his recliner looking at me so he can come out and he can take this deer. Then I'm calling him. Nobody's answering me. And finally, I just had to watch this deer chase this doe through the field. I had tried to make it to the house before he got to the end. Didn't work. Costed me what would have been potentially my first buck if I'd have just carried my rifle with me like I had every other day. So the moral of this story is don't be lazy. Don't cut corners. Just because it's easier, oftentimes I have found when you think it's not going to happen, that's when it happens. Always be prepared. Coming in at 2 is kind of, you can't help this necessarily, buck fever, but not getting ready in time like you should. So, for example, the biggest buck I would have had a chance at with my bow, I was in the stand, I was prepared. I could hear the deer walking. I knew he would daylight this day. We had a cold front in October, and he loved hitting these scrapes, which I was set up over. So I'm in the stand. I hear a tree branch break, and I can tell there's a deer. Can't tell what he is. Coming right down the trail, right towards me. I reach over. I turn the camera on, point it into the hole, and I just sit there frozen and in shock. As I watch this deer walk in, I don't even grab my bow off the hanger. This deer walks all the way, stops 10 yards from me in the gap, and I should have already been drawn back and should have been able to take the shot right then. He stands there and works a scrape. He's sitting there working a scrape. And so the whole time he's doing this, I'm mesmerized because I'd never had a deer this big in front of me like that. Matter of fact, my camera was out of focus. That's why what you're seeing right now is a little blurred. Either way, I finally reach over and get my bow, and just about as I'm starting to draw back, I feel the breeze on the back of my neck switch going right towards him. He jumps like a rabbit and lands on just on the other side of the wood line, still within 15 yards, but it was too thick for a shot. Then proceeded to walk a giant loop because the wind had switched back, got downwind, and it took him a whole month to daylight. I never got another opportunity at him, and the neighbors killed him the day after Thanksgiving during gun season. You know, it's one thing if you have a deer staring at you. Moral of this story, be ready. Have that gun up, have your bow in your hand once you verify any deer's coming, because you never know if that deer is going to be the deer. And in this case, he was that deer, and he is not hanging up on my wall, he's on somebody else's. So before I go into number 1, I'm going to do a little honorable mention here. This one goes back to a previous, which is don't be lazy. The biggest buck of my life I had the chance to harvest last year during gun season with a gun. This is why that did not work out. I had spent the day at the deer lease running deer dogs. Now, my typical setup during gun season now is I have a tripod, have my rifle on it, already aimed out the window. All I have to do is take it off safety, aim, shoot. There's no other movement other than turning my camera on, but I'm in a blind, you can get away with a lot. Same scenario, same spot as the previous story. I hear the buck walking down the four-wheeler trail. Every deer that has come down the four-wheeler trail has been a really nice buck, although the deer come up the draw. I hear him come crashing in, but he's walking, but it was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Well, why is it important that I've been running dogs all day? I was running late to the stand, so I decided I'm not taking my big camera, I'm not taking my hunting rifle, I'm taking my 12 gauge with buckshot, I'm taking my 360 GoPro, and whatever happens, happens. Well, wouldn't you know it? What I wanted to happen, happened. So my gun is leaning against the blind. I hear the deer coming in. I reach, and I have the gun in my hand, but I don't have it out the window, and it's super, super long of a shotgun. Well, I'm like, if I point it out now, he catches that movement, I'm never going to have a shot at him. So I wait for him to clear these branches and get right in front of me at 20 yards. I raise up to shoot. The tip of my barrel smacks the blind, makes a loud bang. He doesn't even check up. He immediately takes off running. I fired 2 shots at him, slowed it down, settled it about a foot over his back. And if I wouldn't have been lazy, if I'd have done what I had done every time previous, I would be waiting for the taxidermist to get done with the biggest deer of my life. So this is the school of hard knocks, let me tell you. Here's mistake number 1, and I feel like, it's easier said than done. wake up on time. You know, this cost me a nice deer last year with my bow as well. I don't know if it was bigger than my previous, but I would have definitely tried to take him with my bow. I've only killed one nice 7-point, and this was a pretty nice 8-point, pretty wide, not super tall. Probably 3-year-old, 2 to 3-year-old. So it's not the end of the world that he lived, because another year he's liable to be a thumper this year. However, I wake up late, I'm running late, I had not pre-hung a stand, so I'm climbing up with my saddle stuff. It's breaking daylight, and it's plenty daylight at this point to see your pins and shoot. I'm halfway up the tree, getting ready to put my platform down to finish getting up there. I look up into the field, and I see a deer bust out coming right towards me, and I said, that looks like a buck. Well, the problem here is my bow was attached to me on a string, and when I seen this deer come out, I was trying to get my bow up the tree. Couldn't do it. It had got wedged in a log. So I was sitting there helpless, because I might have had a chance to still get a shot, even though I wasn't ready. But either way, this buck is coming right down to me, and he stops about 30 yards facing me. My bow's stuck on a log on the bottom. I'm only halfway up the tree. All I can do is pull my phone out and get a quick little video of him. And yeah, so that's School of Hard Knocks. Those are the top 5 plus an honorable mention mistakes that still haunt me to this day. Number 1, the honorable mention probably haunts me the most in all reality, but since it ties into a previous one, I left it as an honorable mention. So let me know in the comments about your top mistakes and things you have learned, to see if maybe we can help people avoid making these mistakes. Thank you.